Welcome to Gail's Garden, Herbs and More. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about garden maintenance. And so we're just going to pick a few things, and then I've got something that I want to bring in with that too. Right over here. Now, I saved the seeds from a little round green squash. I call this John's Turban squash because I got it from the seeds from my son. And I see the big leaf here. And then I brought it over here and it needed something to grow on. So I just found that this morning. And so I put up this little partial piece of cattle panel I have and stuck it with these little stakes that just push down into the ground. And I've got it tied on here and it's growing on this. So it'll give it somewhere to grow a little bit. These are the kind of things you look for. When I was walking around, I saw that and I thought, well, it needs somewhere to go because it was laying over on the ground and I didn't want the squash to grow on the ground. And yeah, so that's why I put this up. That's one of the things. I'm just going to show you a few little maintenance ideas that I've done. It may give you thoughts and ideas of what you need to do in your garden. Okay, now let's go back around here. Come back through here. Even already, right away, this is my pomegranate tree. And I had to tie it back because there's long strands of the tree coming here. And they were sticking out over in my little pathway here. And I didn't want to destroy it, keep pushing through it all the time, walking through here. I've got other shorter ones that are already growing over the pathway now. So I'll have to work some more on that. Gardening is always a continuing maintenance, but it's a fun kind of maintenance. It's fun. Just taking care of these things is just amazing, really. It's a blessing. Okay, this is one of my rose plants. And yes, you can eat roses. They're good for you. I often saved a lot of the petals and stuff. What happened on this one was I have mulch here, and I've pulled some of it aside down there right now, but it was mulched pretty good. And I thought it was fine. And it was just beautiful. And all of a sudden I walked out here and there were just dead leaves all over it and about 7 little rose buds that were on it that were starting to dry up. So I cut all the rose buds off. That was hard to do. But they were drying up anyway. And I cut all the yellow leaves off. What had happened was I moved some of the mulch back and it had dried out all of a sudden really fast. It hadn't been but a few days before and it was just soaked. So you really have to keep an eye on pots. You can't, sometimes with this pot scattered all over the way mine is, I lose track of one or two here and there. But if you keep an eye on the plants, they tell you. And boy, this one told me. So I fixed it up so it seems to be doing pretty good right now. That's another thing that's maintenance that you have to watch out for. Okay, yeah, my yastaberry. Yastaberries, I had different ones help me move up here, and these pots are so heavy I could never move this pot. I wished I could because the yastaberry really needs to be, it actually rained last night and this morning. The yastaberry actually likes it a little bit cooler. It doesn't like super hot weather. And this has come off, so I need to get my clip and clip it. But I got the top and this front side where the sun comes from this direction over here. I put up some tulle and it just gives it a slight shade. It can still get quite a bit of sun because you need some sun to actually get it to fruit. Now this poor plant has been went through the ringer. I had it in the ground when I first got it. It was growing and beautiful, and my son was weed eating and whacked it all down, not realizing what it was. So I thought, well, I don't know if it's going to come out of it, but it did. So I dug it up and put it in this pot over under the oak tree where I used to live. And then I found out I had to move. And we couldn't move the pot with all the dirt, so we had to dig it out and bring it up here and replant it again. And it's actually come back out. I'm kind of surprised. It's a tough plant. But I haven't got any of the berries yet because it keeps getting set back, and it usually takes 2 or 3 years before you get berries anyway. I've had it for 3 years now, but I won't get berries probably because it's been whacked so often and transplanted and everything else. But it is a constant maintenance, like thinking about your individual plants. Do they need a lot of sun? Do they need a little bit of shade, a little bit of coolness? This is the hottest part of my place, is right out on this side. This happened to be where this yasterberry got set. And that was not good, but I have to make the best of it because I cannot move this pot. So I put tulle up. More tulle on this one over in my other part of my garden. I've got all kinds of little rooms in my garden. This is a kale tree, and the mother plant was about like this when I got it last year. This is just a little piece I took off from it and rooted, and it has just taken off. But I had to fight the little green worms horrible. And there's a moth that comes out at night and lays eggs, and then the larva hatches and it eats your plants up. So I've got it covered to keep the moth off from it. This particular one, I don't have to worry about blooming on it. Now the mother plant bloomed this year, but it was ready to bloom, I guess. This shouldn't bloom. So yeah, now that's another maintenance type thing that I did. There's a lot more. I'm just picking a few to talk about. That might give you some ideas. By the way, I got this from Robbie and Gary. I got the idea with this really extended this because it outgrew the first one I had on here with the bamboo stakes. But I put the tubing on it, and that extended it quite a bit, which is really kind of nice. And then the tulle doesn't get caught up and stuck on the tubing like it does on sticks. Another form of maintenance, I had just thrown a bunch of my squash seeds in here, not knowing what would come up. Well, at first, just these two had come up, and then all of a sudden I had some more, and I dug them up and transplanted them around the garden, and then a couple more came up, so I just transplanted a couple more. You want to keep an eye. If you get too many seeds in an area, it takes all the nutrition. There's not a lot of nutrition in this dirt anyway. I dug a little hole and put some bagged dirt in it with some nutrition, but it'll get past that real fast. So I didn't want all those plants, or none of them would grow. So that's another form of maintenance, is thinning them. Thinning the plants as they come up. And that's really hard sometimes, but these, at least, they were little plants I could transplant throughout the garden. We'll see what takes and what doesn't. Thankfully, we have some cool weather, even though it's June right now, so my transplants might make it. Okay, let's take a little walk. I want to talk to you some about this. Down here is this oak tree that was cut down is sprouting out and taken over. Need to cut it back down. That'll be another form of maintenance too, because it's going to shade out my little hollyhock down there. But let's think about that oak tree shading out the hollyhock. Sometimes our lives we need to make an assessment, and some maintenance needs to be done. And sometimes we cut out things in our life thinking we're doing, think we're doing really well. But all of a sudden it sneaks back into our life and starts hindering us. It could be a lot of things. Look at this is wild St. John's wort. A lot of it's coming up. Isn't it pretty? It'll be prettier when it blooms. Anyway, sorry, I get pulled aside quite easily by plants. But, yeah, sometimes things kind of sneak back in our life, maybe in a slightly different form. It's like that bush isn't a big tree, but it's a bush now, but it's shading out that hollyhock. I've got to go in there and maintain that. I got to go cut that down. That's like things that creep back into your life. Sometimes, like on a diet, say I'm going to cut this out and this out and that out, and then all of a sudden you let a little bit in here and a little bit in there, and you've got a whole bush just covering everything. Yeah. We as a people we need a covering, kind of like the tulle giving shade, or a shade cloth like I had last year when I had my little makeshift greenhouse. I had, for a while I put a shade cloth over it. We need that covering of Jesus continually in our life, because we are just human beings with many weaknesses, and we need his help, and we need his covering. We need to maintain our lives and do the best we can after we've become a Christian, after we've, the Lord has come into our life. But, we can do things, but our works aren't going to get us to heaven. We work because we love the Lord. We work because it comes naturally. It's a fruit. And we want to maintain our life. It makes life better. If we follow the things that the Lord has for us, it does improve our lifestyle. I'm going to be careful walking down here, because this is the direction the cougar comes from. So kind of got my eyes open here. But anyway, yeah, we do need his covering, but not just during part of our life like a shade cloth. We need his covering the whole time, and we need to stay under the umbrella of his love. One of the things about maintaining your garden I didn't mention was the feeding. I kind of did in a roundabout way, but the plants, they need food to grow on, and so do we. As believers in Jesus, we need to read the scriptures and pray and think about that, and that's our food. That's our spiritual food, and we can't neglect it. Just like if we neglect our plants, they're going to die or not give us much fruit. And if we're not feeding spiritually, we're not going to have as much fruit either. Want to explore a little bit with me? Got to walk around the other way because there's some old fencing back here that's going to stop me. Guess I'm feeling a little brave today, huh? Taking you with me, so you'll see if anything comes. I'll try to get the camera up, but I may have to drop it and run. Hopefully not. Usually it's at night, but you just never know. I have seen a cougar during the day. So, but usually it's just they come out at night. And the bear too. Okay. Just thought it would be kind of... I'm taking stock and looking around because there's so much brush and stuff back down that direction that I don't know what's down there. I did have someone go down with a weapon with me, and we walked through it once during the middle of the day and didn't see anything. But, oh, look at this. Isn't that kind of unique? Wonder what that is. That almost has a leaf like a gooseberry. I don't know. Kind of interesting, but they're red. I don't know. Something is here that's making it red. I don't know what that is. But the leaf is very similar to like the gooseberry in that family. The shape of it anyway. But there's a lot of plants in that family. Oop, forgot to turn the camera back on. Okay, here we go. Let's see what we find here. There's a lot of that plant. I'm walking on it. Very interesting. A lot of good firewood here. I don't see a whole lot of plants. It's not like walking in a field in the spring in the valley and you find all kinds of neat herbs. Now, yeah, I see a little bit. Like, here's some cleavers. Get it down here. I guess I should probably head back to the house. I don't want to get too far out here where I can't get back home. I'm not really that far, but I've been a little bit weak lately, so anyway, and I'm gonna have to run real fast. Just a few things. I wanted to talk about the maintenance of the garden and the maintenance in our lives. We can't let our lives go. We got to keep check on ourselves. Where are we at spiritually? Where is our life? Is it a good witness to others? Is it being beneficial to others as well as ourselves? A lot of people harm themselves because they get caught and trapped in things that they think is just fun and exciting at the time, but it's a trap and it ruins their life. So we got to keep up the maintenance, not let the weeds overtake in our garden or in our life. But just a few thoughts I wanted to share with you all. Hope you enjoy this. Bye for now.